Hey everyone, I'm Chef Tom and welcome to my workbench. I'm a retro computer enthusiast. I really love Commodore machines. So today we're going to take a look at this Commodore 128 and this Commodore 64C and see which one I enjoy the GEOS experience on better and if there's any way to improve it. So ever since I first saw GEOS, probably around 1988, 1989, it had been out for a little while. Obviously the Commodore 128 had already been out. I was very interested in the graphical operating system. And looking back on it, it was definitely through rose-tinted glasses because it wasn't that great of an operating system, but it was cool and it was different, and it was before Windows really hit the mainstream, and it was really interesting. I can't remember if I saw it on the 64 or the 128 first, but I'm pretty sure it was on the 64 because I remember there being color. So let's take a look at the two of them and see which I would use more today. So here I am booting up the sketchy C64C. You can see a video on this computer specifically up in the corner. But it boots up into Jiffy DOS, and that's why I wanted to boot this rather than just using 64 mode on the 128. So from when I hit return to getting a cursor that I can move on the screen is about 1 minute and 10 seconds. Not horrible given the computer and the time frame we're talking about. It is asking me to reinsert the GEOS 64 disk, which is in there, and I don't know why. So we'll reboot and try this again. Still took about 1 minute 10. That was to be expected. Trying to open up the pad color manager, but the whole thing just hangs and I restart again. And then I hung 2 more times. I'm going to try this without Jiffy DOS. Amusingly, without Jiffy DOS, it only took 1 minute 5 to load up GEOS and get to a cursor, so I guess it really wasn't helping anyway. The pad color manager comes right up, and I can start setting colors so this looks a little nicer. And that high contrast black on white just makes my eye strain much, much less. Let's launch GeoWrite and see what we got. Oh, I really don't like this dark gray on light gray motif going on here. Maybe it looked good on a old Commodore CRT, but on an HDMI monitor now, it just looks absolutely yuck. I do appreciate that this is WYSIWYG, but I only see the first 5 inches of the text on the top there, and it goes past. I just don't see it, and I don't see a word wrap option. So this would be really annoying to work with if I was trying to type anything. Okay, we can go into the preferences manager here and change the system foreground and background colors. Let's go for dark gray on white, and I don't know, a nice red border for now, just so that when I'm looking at the clips later, I know which system I'm looking at. Not that it won't be obvious by the fact that it says GEOS 64 on the screen. Back into GeoWrite, and this is what I was expecting to see. Nice high contrast. Actually, it looks like text on paper. This is what I was hoping to be working in, but still only being able to see part of the screen at a time is really, really annoying. Let's see if this is any better on the 128. Alright, so I've got the Pi 1541 hooked up to my Commodore 128. We're booting up in 80 columns mode, and we'll launch GEOS 128. Alright, so 1 minute 55 till I get a cursor that I can move. That is a little longer than it took on the C64, but I already like the way this looks so much better, even without having to go in and do any color adjustment. I downloaded a utility called Color 128 because I was told I needed to, and it needs to be converted into a GEOS file format before it can be run, so we'll do that real quick. And now that I've got it converted, I can come in here and start messing with colors in 80 column mode. The only thing is I can only change the foreground and background colors. It's still limited to basically black and white. And I'm going to push that even further by just taking a high white background and a black foreground and giving myself this nice high contrast color that I really like. Included in the documentation is this note that says see color 128 version 2.0 for a different aspect of colors in 80 column mode. I actually looked for this for a while and I could not find it anywhere. So if someone has a copy of this, I'd love to see what it does. Just shoot me a message, let me know. Put it in the comments if you've got a link to it. I don't know. Just if I can find out where this color 128 version 2.0 is, if it exists anywhere, or if it's vaporware, I would just like to know what's going on there. So to compare apples to apples, we'll boot up GeoWrite 128, which runs in 80 column mode. And immediately when you boot it up, you can already see that the ruler goes all the way across to 8 inches, which means that this is going to show me the full width of the page all the time. And that is exactly what I was looking for. I'm just going to write a little note here for myself and just make a comment on the fact that I'm trying to do NaNoWriMo. I say re, other people say ri. I don't know, I think it's like GIF and GIF. But National Novel Writing Month. Anyway, yeah, I like to do that with a little retro flair. And one of the really neat things about GeoWrite is it actually functions like Google Docs, where it doesn't ask me if I want to save, it just saves when I exit, and when I come back in, it's right where it was. So, very nice feature that they had way ahead of their time. I was also really excited for this GEOS CBM term, but it runs in 40 column mode, and that wasn't what I was excited about because I have a text mode version that runs in 8 column mode that I really like. So, kind of sad about that. I guess in one way it's good that when you leave the 40 column application, it doesn't kick you back to 80 column mode, because if you were working on an old monitor, you'd have to hit the button to change sources. In my case, I have to change which HDMI cable's hooked up. I might put a switch in if I set this up long term like this, but I don't see that happening. But I really dislike that we've gone back to this gray on gray color scheme that we saw in the GEOS 64 as well. Let's take a minute and fix that up real quick. I don't know why my HDMI capture card creates all these artifacts on the screen when I use the S-Video out from my 128, because it looks perfect on the TV screen. It's just the capture that gets all screwed up with it. But either way, if I were to stay in 40 column mode, I may as well just use GEOS 64 because it's going to do basically the same thing. The whole reason I have this is to do 128 stuff and do it in 80 column mode. So I think we're just going to stick with that. So no crazy hardware shenanigans this week. Just excited that I got the RGB to HDMI working and getting that 80 columns mode looking nice and crystal clear for GEOS. But I don't think I'm going to spend that much time in GEOS either way. The biggest thing I do with my Commodores is I either play games, which there aren't really any written for GEOS that I care about, or I use it to go online like RetroTech or Die, and that I'm going to use my text mode 80 column terminal for. So I guess this whole thing's just kind of been like, which do I prefer? Obviously GEOS 128 works way better out of the box. Other things I could do to improve it? Absolutely. If I decide I want to stick with GEOS, I can do a GEOS ROM in U36, which will make it boot almost instantly on the 128. And I may still do that because I do want to explore GEOS more. I want to like it. I want to enjoy it more and more. Hopefully there's an 80 column terminal program out there somewhere so I can use that. I would love if someone knows one that works perfectly. Not even perfectly. If one that just works, if you can put it, send me a link, let me know, put a comment down. That'd be great. Other than that, I guess it was more nostalgia than anything else. I really thought GEOS was much more useful than it really is. And like I said, I think that's the rose-tinted nostalgia glasses going on there. That's probably all it was. In a modern retro computer, I just don't see the use for it, which makes me sad because I want to like it. I want to be able to use it. I want to do something with it. Short of writing my own software, because I am not a software developer. Anyone who's ever looked at any of the code I've written in the 65816 project knows. I am lousy at code. Hardware I can do, code, not so much. So, for now, I'm going to leave it as I'm going to run my 64 for 64 games, my 128 for getting online and doing fun stuff. And I'll come back to GEOS after I do some more research, I guess. Hopefully there's some good discussion that we can get going in the comments about good uses for it. I'd really like to use it. I really would. So, until next time, I'll see you later. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and press that subscribe button in the center of the screen. I've also got a couple other videos I think you might enjoy.